Hello, race fans, and welcome back to the Ohio Dirt Track Podcast. My name is Clint.
And I'm Jacob.
We're glad you came back to join us this week. We do have another interview that we're going to dive into here in a few minutes with a local late model driver. But first, we want to talk about a couple events that we went to this weekend. Tons of racing again across Ohio and Pennsylvania over the weekend. I was at the Dirt Million, and Jacob took off to Pennsylvania on a racecation, and we're going to hear about that in a minute. But very quickly, I want to just address something that you may have seen me post on Twitter and Facebook about an event that happened at the Dirt Million on Saturday night. There was a parachute jump planned, and if you were there, you probably saw it. Two jumpers came out of the plane, and then something fell out of the plane. It looked like something fell out of the plane and landed behind the pits and the trees. There were lots of people scrambling in that direction, naturally, not sure what it was. And I do have an answer. If you haven't seen it on the Facebook, that was an American flag that was planned to be trailing one of the jumpers. As they left the plane, that flag did not deploy correctly or got tangled, and for safety protocol reasons, that jumper was forced to cut that flag loose. So the two things that you saw fall, one was a little balloon that came all the way over to turn 3, it looked like, balloon-looking object. I believe that was supposed to trail that flag, but what you saw fall over there behind the motorhomes on the backside of the pits towards Olivesburg Road was the American flag. Obviously, it was not a person. We all would have heard about that now. But I just wanted to make sure that we clarified that. I did post the question on Twitter trying to find out what it was, and I got a call later that afternoon from Brian Fisher, who helped organize that jump. Those jumpers do jump in memory of veterans, and that was a tribute. Each one of them it carries a memory of a veteran with them when they jump. If you want to learn more about the organization, you can find it on the posts that I've made on our Facebook page and our Twitter page. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew about that. That did look a little alarming, but there's your answer. For those of you who have not heard or have not found out what that was that fell to the ground out there behind the pits, it was not a skydiver. It was the flag that was supposed to trail one of the jumpers cut away for safety protocol. So I just wanted to make sure we cleared that up. And now that we've done that, if you weren't at the Dirt Million this weekend, there were a lot of late models in Mansfield, Ohio. The weather was beautiful on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which was something that we haven't seen here in Mansfield for most of the summer. A little over $300,000 in that total purse for the Dirt Million, and the winner took home touch over $101,000, I believe. Your winner of the 2019 version of the Dirt Million was Brandon Shepard. Ran away with most of it there at the end. Second place, Mike Marler. Third, Chase Juggins, who was pretty strong all weekend. Fourth, Jimmy Owens. Fifth, Ricky Weiss. Sixth, Daryl Lanigan. Seventh, Jonathan Davenport, who was also very strong all weekend. So good weekend there at Mansfield Motor Speedway for the Dirt Million. And that's enough about that. We talked a lot about it, and we talked to quite a few of the drivers. What I want to hear is, Jacob, how was your trip to Pennsylvania this weekend? Did you get to see any racing?
Oh, yeah. Mother Nature tried her best on Thursday and Friday, but there was definitely a lot of racing going on. Thursday night, we got to Grandview Speedway, and we had the All-Stars and 358 Modified. A lot of the Pennsylvania drivers say Grandview and Lincoln are kind of like similar to Ohio tracks. But, Grandview kind of reminds me of like a Lawrenceburg down there in southern Indiana. But overall, the racing was pretty good. We did have like a 2-hour rain delay. We had a line of storms blow through, right before heat races were about to start. So there's about a 2-hour rain delay, and thankfully my hotel was about 5 minutes from the track, so I just went back to my hotel and hung out for a little bit until I saw that trucks were back out on the track. But after that, the track was very, very fast. In the heat races, they were going faster than they were in time trials, so that was pretty interesting. But Aaron Reitzel dominated. He led all 35 laps of the race, and he beat the posse. And then Friday night, was Williams Grove. I love going to Williams Grove. Each time I've been there, it's been the racing has gotten better. But it did kind of rain all day on Friday, but the track was still really good. Then it was twin 20 features. So in the first feature, we had Aaron Reitzel win. That is the first time ever the All-Stars have beaten the Posse at Williams Grove. So in 39 years, that was the first time the All-Stars beat the Posse. And then the second feature was won by Lance DeWeese. No surprise there. Lance also finished, I think, second in the first feature. So Lance had himself a really good night. And then Saturday, temperatures cooled off a little bit, and we went to Lincoln Speedway down near Abbottstown and had, just an excellent race. It took a little bit for that feature to get going with a bunch of cautions and like a fuel stop on like lap 4. But after that, it was another all-star butt kicking. I mean, the all-star, or Skylar G picked up his first ever all-star win in pretty dominating fashion. And I believe that was his first time at the track. So Skylar G goes out and gets his first all-star win against the Posse at Lincoln Speedway. And then Sunday is the day that everyone was kind of talking about BAPS. So Sunday, I got there and I was really looking forward to it. And I was hoping it would be a pretty quick show. But we had, there was a 305 that kind of got stuck in the fence, and it was probably about 9 o'clock, and I thought the fence repair was going to take a while. So I ended up loading up and leaving just because I had a 6-hour drive home. But after that, as soon as I got on the turnpike, my phone started blowing up, and some things happened, apparently. So obviously we had, those 5 cars get disqualified for them being rather prominent Posse members. So it was definitely an interesting night on the Twitter sphere. I was at the drivers' meeting, and they said, keep your crews in that there would be cones set up in the infield, and the crews are to stay in there. So, the All-Stars said it. They didn't say that it would be a disqualification. I don't know what to really make of it, other than I think this weekend's drivers' meeting for the All-Stars are going to be very well attended.
Right. Some people taking notes, right?
Yeah.
Actually, everybody's going to have their phones out recording it is what they're going to be doing.
Right. I don't think we'll have to worry about cones being set up this weekend. I think both Attica and Wayne County have those designated work areas in the pit, so you won't have to worry about being in a box.
So you had a long weekend of racing. How many miles did you cover? Any idea?
Oh, I want to say it's about 400 there, 400 back, and I'm probably looking at 900 to 1,000 miles.
4 nights of racing?
Yep. Grandview is about 7.5 hours away. It's about an hour and a half to the east of the other 3 tracks. So I stayed close to Grandview, obviously, Thursday night, and then I went back west on Friday morning.
Back in Crawford County at 3:30 on Monday morning, and then back at work.
Yep.
On Monday.
Yep, about 8 o'clock, I think.
I don't know how you do it, man.
I'm young. That's what everyone tells me, is I'm young, so I can do this. So, okay, I was struggling yesterday, Monday, but I made it through the workday. I was in bed about 8:15 Monday night.
Good deal. Well, there you go. That's kind of our week last week, as far as our eyes being on the racetrack here on the Ohio Dirt Track Podcast side. And then this weekend coming up, we've got Attica Late Model Championship points coming up. And our interviewee today is none other than Ryan Missler, a late model driver from Bellevue, Ohio. And he is going to be in contention for that points. He's sitting in 3rd place right now. So we're going to dive right into our conversation here with Ryan Missler. All right, we are here on the phone with Ryan Missler from Bellevue, Ohio, a super late model driver from the area. Ryan, how you doing today?
Doing real good. How about you guys?
Doing pretty good. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to us and join us here on the Ohio Dirt Track Podcast. It's always good to talk to Ohio drivers, especially when you are in between two local races, right between Mansfield and coming up to Attica here this weekend. So before we dive into all of that, what I'd like to do is, for some of our listeners who might be outside of this area or outside of Ohio, I want to give them a little bit about who Ryan Missler is. So if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit really quick about how you got into a late model and where you started racing?
Sure, yeah. I raced go-karts when I was a teenager, and in our area we had a couple guys that were from Bellevue that were running limited late models at Attica, and that's how I got hooked up with it. I drove one of those guys. It was John Boris who raced in it, and he was from Bellevue, and I asked him if I could hot lap his race car one night and at Attica, and I did that, and I was hooked ever since. So after that, we bought an old Rayburn, I think it was a 1989 Rayburn race car, and went racing the following year at Attica in the limited late models. That was 2005 was my first full year, but I hot lapped a limited late in 2004. So that's how I got started. And then Attica transitioned that class. It was limited lates up until 2008, and then 2009 they transitioned the class into a super late model, so we didn't have any engine restrictions anymore. So, and then that's how we transitioned into the super late models.
You have a couple of track championships to your name, and then you I think you stepped away for a little bit, and then you came back. So what was all that like for you?
Well, yeah, we won the championship 5 years in a row there from 2009 to 2013. And then we still, the following year, we raced most of the races, but we didn't race all the races. And then racing, to me, it started to get more like a second job than being fun. And it was still fun, but it just seemed like as the season went on, every year it was getting sooner and sooner when I would get burnt out, going to race shop every night, and we weren't running as good as we had in the past. And it just got to be more like a second job, like I said. But then we had our third child. I got 3 kids, but we had our third child, Oliver, in 2016. And he had some health issues, and that was the year that we didn't race at all. And we raced a couple times towards the end of the season, just by a fluke. But so that we took pretty much the year off that year, and then we ran limited for maybe once a week in 2017 then. And then in 2018, we went pretty much full bore again, twice a week, running for points championships and whatnot. So, yeah, that was the ordeal there.
So you mentioned that racing became almost a second job for you. I know that before we started recording here, you mentioned that you run a machine shop there in Bellevue. So is that something that you've been doing the whole time you were racing, or did your racing lead to that? Have you been trying to juggle those for that whole 10-year span that you were just talking about?
The machine shop has been here the whole time. I just recently took over running it from an ownership standpoint, but I've been working in the same machine shop here for my dad since I got out of high school in 2002. So the machine shop's always been here, and the race shop was initially, it started out of a back room here at the machine shop, but since then it's moved to different places.
With the machine shop, does that kind of help you do your own work on the car?
Yeah, in the past, yeah, it did. But now I'm driving for Matt Carmody, and he's the car and the race